Now, when we're dealing with perfect market, we need to always keep in mind that this is a market structure. So in your description or in your answers, if you are asked a question about a perfect market, you need to state that it is a market structure. Then you go on to actually saying a market structure where A, B, C, D is actually happening. So it's a market structure with a large number of participants who are all price takers. So participants could be your sellers and also could be the consumers. There are no entry and exit barriers in the long run. All the information is available to both the buyers and sellers, and the products that are being sold there, they are homogeneous products, meaning they are identical, they are the same products. Then we are given examples of some of businesses that actually operate under a perfect market. You have your shares market, you have foreign exchange market, wool or grain market, and agricultural produce market. And again, there, for the agricultural produce market, maybe some people might relate more with that part, whereby here in Cape Town, you'd find that most people, they would tell you that they get their fresh veggies and fruits in Epping because that is where the farmers market is actually situated. So that's what we are referring to. Even in other provinces, you do find that there are some market days whereby farmers, they just go there and they come and they showcase and they sell their agricultural produce. So those farmers, they operate in a perfect market structure. Then we quickly move on to imperfect markets. Now, an imperfect market is also a market structure that does not meet the conditions or the characteristics of a perfect market. So what does that mean? So we said there are a large number of participants, so meaning here there can't really be a large number of participants as much as the perfect market. The barriers now to entering or exiting, they need to be different, and even now the nature of the products that are going to be sold in the perfect markets, it needs to be different from the one that is actually being sold in the perfect market. So that's why it said that it is where there is an imperfect competition between the producers in the imperfect market. And then we have three types now of imperfect markets. We have a monopoly, whereby there is only one supplier of a good or a service. So everyone now depends on only that one supplier. Now in South Africa, we only depend on Eskom, for Eskom to actually supply us with electricity. Then we have monopolistic competition as the second imperfect market. It's a market structure with many buyers and many sellers, and the entry into the market is reasonably easy, and the products, they are definitely differentiated that they are being sold. So I'm sure you can already pick up now the differences from those market structures, the imperfect ones and also the perfect ones. Then the third one, which is the last one, we have an oligopoly or oligopolies, whereby we only have few sellers that are dominating the market. And those few sellers, maybe 5 to 7 businesses, they are actually catering to a large number of buyers. So those businesses, if you can just maybe think of any business, few businesses, but they are catering to a large number of buyers, then that business is definitely operating under an oligopoly market structure. Then now we are going to actually proceed to diving into more detail now of the characteristics and what actually separates these market structure from each other. Now, learners, you need to make sure that you understand these characteristics or these conditions that make these market structures to be different from each other. So that is what we are going to be doing now. So let's get on with it. So now we have characteristics. We have the number of firms or businesses. We have the nature of the product. We have entry and exit from the market. We even have output. We have the control over the market prices or the control over the price of the product. We have the demand curve for the firms or for the business or for the product. We have market information, and then lastly, we have examples of each and every market. So we're going to first start with the perfect competition. Now, in the perfect competition, as already mentioned, there are a large number of buyers and sellers. We move on to the monopoly. The monopoly, we only have one seller and many buyers. So there's just one business that is selling us a product or that is providing us with a service. But there's many of us who are dependent on that one supplier for that particular product or that particular service. Then oligopoly. Oligopoly, there is few. Oligopoly, there's few. I'm just trying to get, yes, so that I can point as to where we are. Oligopoly, we have small number of businesses. Remember, we said few businesses that dominate, but they are actually catering to a large number of consumers. So we are referring to oligopolies. Then the monopolistic competition, it's a large number of businesses or sellers also catering to that large number of consumers. Now we move on to the nature of the product. The nature of the product, as already mentioned in the perfect competition, we are selling, or those businesses are selling, homogeneous products. Another alternative would be saying they are selling the same or identical products. Now I want you to just again refer back to that example that I made of that farmers market. You'd get different farmers that are selling their cabbages, their beetroots, their fruits. You find that these are all the bananas that they are selling. So they're basically selling the same thing, which is fruit or veg. Then we move on to monopoly now. The nature of products that are being sold, obviously it's a unique one, and it does not have close substitutes. We're moving on to oligopoly. Products are homogeneous there, or they are differentiated. So you get a bit of both there. Then monopolistic, the products that are being sold there, they are definitely differentiated. The entry and the exit into the market, it is completely free in the perfect competition. It is completely restricted or blocked in the monopoly. Hence, we only have that one seller that we are dependent on. Entry into the oligopoly, it varies from free or to being restricted. So hence now we only have few businesses. So if you are able to start up a business that is operating in an oligopoly, if you are able to have the high costs, the development costs that are required, then yes, you can enter the market. But if you do not have those, or you do not meet the requirements that need to be met in order for one to be providing a service under an imperfect market, then it will be restricted to you. Hence, it says that it varies between being free and to being restricted. Then in the monopolistic competition, there's free entry and there's free exit. Now, sometimes we refer to a monopolistic competition as a hybrid. Now, when we say hybrid, we actually mean that it has a bit of both. It has some characteristics from the perfect competition, and it has some characteristic or conditions from the imperfect markets. So hence there it says that there is free entry, and you might relate that to the entry of the perfect market. We quickly move on to output. Output is high, and consumers have a large variety to choose from because everyone there is selling almost the same products. Then output is very low, with no choice or variety available to consumers. So now here we are only dependent on what that one seller is actually providing us with. We don't actually have a freedom of choice there. We're not spoiled for choice when it comes to the monopoly. Then in the oligopoly, output is low with little choice. At least there is room for choice there, but it's not as much as that we get to benefit from the perfect market. Output is relatively high here, as many sellers, they occupy the market. Even here, we actually get to choose from whichever products that we want, because remember the products there, they are differentiated. We move on to the control over the market. So the perfect competition, they do not have control over the price of the product, as we might have said that they are actually price takers. So them being actually price takers, what does that mean? It means that the industry now, which is the forces of demand and supply, they are the ones that actually set up the price. They are the ones that determine. Remember the price formation that we talked about, the interaction between the demand and supply. So that is the industry now setting up or determining prices for the individual businesses that are operating under the perfect competition. So hence we refer to them as price takers. They take prices that have been determined or that have been set by the industry. Then here they have considerable, so these are the monopolies, they have considerable control over the price of the product. But there is a factor that limits them, and that factor is the market demand and the goal of profit maximization. So now because the monopoly wants to maximize profits, and they also want to have a market share, they cannot unfortunately be charging consumers high prices. They are limited by the market demand, because at the end of the day, it's us consumers that need to be actually afford to go and actually buy that service or that product that is being offered by the monopoly. Then oligopolies, they have control over prices as they are price makers. Businesses have little control over prices in the monopolistic competition. So it says that they have little control over prices of products, because products are differentiated, and there are many products that are actually being sold here, and there are a large number of businesses that are selling here. So if I'm not happy with your prices, I will definitely go to the competitor next door. So hence it said that they do not have, or they have little control over prices, because if you're not happy, or if you're not satisfied, or if you cannot afford my prices, you can just simply walk down the road and then get the same product, maybe for a different price than the one that I was charging. But that luxury, it happens in the monopolistic, not in the monopoly, because remember, in the monopoly we are only stuck with the prices that are being charged by that one seller. I'll quickly move on to the demand curve. So how is the demand curve of these market structures now? The demand curve for perfect competition, it is referred to as being horizontal, which is perfectly elastic. The demand curve for demand curve for monopoly, it is that one that slopes downwards, and it is equal to the market demand. So when they say that it is equal to the market demand, they actually mean that that one seller is the industry. Remember, when we are dealing with the perfect competition, if you gather up maybe 5 individual businesses, so in total they make an industry. But here in the monopoly, because we're dealing with only one seller or one supplier, that one seller, they represent the whole industry, or they represent the whole market. So hence it is said there that that downward demand that slopes downward, it is equal to the market demand for the whole industry, or for the whole market. Then again, here for the oligopoly, we have a downward sloping demand curve that we refer to as a kinked demand curve. Don't worry, we will actually get to see how that demand curve is. Then the monopolistic, it has a downward sloping demand curve. Market information in the perfect market, so both buyers and sellers, they have full knowledge of all the prevailing market conditions. And then in the monopoly, both buyers, the many buyers, and that one seller, they also have the full knowledge of the prevailing market conditions. However, now we see a different case in the oligopoly. It has incomplete information between the buyers and the sellers. And also in the monopolistic, the information between buyers and sellers, it is also incomplete there. Then we quickly move on now, lastly, to the examples. The examples of a perfect market. We have international commodity markets. An example that is given there is the gold and oil. We know that South Africa is a huge exporter of gold, and we import oil from other countries, and also our financial markets. Those are all some of the examples of businesses that are operating under the perfect market. Then we move on to monopoly. We have Eskom as a natural monopoly. So a natural monopoly, it is when there is only one seller or one supplier of a product within the industry. Then we have your DSTV, your Netflix. We refer to those in economics as artificial monopolies, because that means they had to obtain licenses or patents to actually operate as monopolies. So again, just keep in mind the artificial and the natural monopoly. Natural monopoly in South Africa, it's Eskom, because Eskom is our only provider of electricity. Then you have now DSTV, you have other channels that you get to enjoy your entertainment. So those ones now, we refer to them as artificial monopolies. We even have the stainless steel companies. They also operate as monopolies. Then we quickly move on to oligopoly. For oligopoly, we have examples such as your petrol and oil, we have cell phone, we have motor cars. Now, I want us to just quickly think of a situation here in South Africa. We only have few businesses or garages that are offering us with petrol and fuel. And also for our network providers, we also have few of those. We have MTN, Vodacom, Cell C, and Telkom. There's only few of those. So which goes back to what we said about the number of businesses that are operating in the oligopoly. And again, the word oli means few businesses, or whatever it is that you're referring to. If you're saying it's an oli, then it would mean that it is few, or the number is not many businesses that are operating there in that industry. Then we quickly move on to the monopolistic. In the monopolistic, we have your fast food outlets. There is actually countless. We also have your clothing store. We have your household furniture, etc. So over there, we have plenty of those. Remember, we said that there is a large number of businesses and also customers that are buying from those businesses that are operating in the monopolistic competition. Now we're going to quickly move on to the graphical representation of a perfect competition, and also in the imperfect we are just going to be dealing with the oligopoly. So we are going to just quickly go through the diagrams now so that we can actually see how those prices are actually set or are actually determined. Remember, we said businesses that are operating in the perfect market, they are price takers. So we are going to actually find out or discover now how those prices are actually set or they are actually determined. So that's what we are going to do now. Now remember, when we started with the lesson, I mentioned that you definitely needed to have your pencil, you needed to have your ruler, and you needed to have some paper so that you can be able to just scribble down your diagrams. Don't worry, even if you do not have a ruler, I sometimes also draw on a freehand. As long as you have something that you can use, let us just quickly do that now. So in your screens, as you can see, that we have a perfect market demand curve. Now we have sketch A and sketch B. So this is sketch A. This is now the industry, as you can see the labeling there. And sketch B, we have the individual business that are both operating within the perfect market. Now, when we are dealing with our graph, it is very important that we label. And this, as you can see, this picture is nicely labeled and you see your ticks. So where marks are allocated for you, you also need to put your labels so that you can just collect those marks as much as possible. So what's happening in sketch A is that individual businesses, they form a small portion of a market. The market price is determined by the interaction of your demand and supply. So here the prices, they are actually set. So there is the price that is determined by the industry, and that price is therefore transferred to the individual businesses. So hence we refer to them as price takers. So moving on to sketch B, what's actually happening here? So we have that market price, which is also equal to the horizontal demand curve, and it is also equal to the average revenue and the marginal revenue of this individual business. Now here, the business can actually sell at that market price. They can sell at any quantity that they can, so long as they will not tamper with the price. So it says on here that the demand curve for the individual business is a horizontal line, and they are all price takers. So all the individual businesses that are operating there, they are price takers. All the businesses, they sell at the same price, which is the market price, which is also equal to the average revenue, which is also equal to the marginal revenue. Now the horizontal demand curve, it represents the marginal revenue curve. Now we are quickly going to move on to the diagram of an oligopoly, which is now the imperfect market part. So here, remember I said that we refer to the downward demand curve as a kinked demand curve. Now here, in an oligopoly, you find that a firm, when they want to increase their prices, they are referred to, remember these ones, they are price makers. So they do have the room to tamper with their prices, as you can see in the diagram here, that initially the price was 50 rands, and the quantity that was being offered, that was being demanded, it was 50 units. Maybe this is 50 gallons or 50 liters of petrol. Now, if the business decides to increase their prices now from 50 rands to 60 rands, definitely the demand will fall from 50 to 20. And that is because of the law of the demand, grade 10 content. When the price goes up, the demand goes down, and when the price goes down, the demand goes up. So this is the situation that is actually happening here. And now an oligopoly is faced with three things that can actually happen. It's either the oligopoly can increase their price and then they suffer. If they do, the result would be a decrease in the demand, as you can see here. Another thing would be that they either decrease their prices, of which, yes, the demand will definitely increase. But now, if ever the price it decreases to there, just below that point B, now the quantity demanded, it might just increase from 50 to 60. Now, that's not a huge difference. Is that really worth doing? Meaning now, is it really worth dropping prices as an oligopoly business? Or in fact, we are oligopolies, they are advised to just let their prices remain the same without changing their prices so that they can be able to make more profits. So that is what is happening. And we normally say now that in an oligopoly, businesses, they are mutually dependent on the other businesses. So what does that mean? It simply means that if one business decides to increase their prices, we refer to that as a price leader. Then if other competitors now within the oligopoly, they also decide to follow and increase their prices, they are referred to as price followers. Now, if prices were to be decreased, that would result in what we refer to as a price war, because business A would decrease their price and business B would want to even decrease more than business A decreased their price, and we refer to that situation as a price war. And hence, that is why we now say oligopolies, they do not compete on the basis of prices, they compete on non-price competition, which is other things other than the price. It could be the good quality, it could be added benefits or an after-sales service that you do that will make customers want to come and actually use your product or your service. Now, an example that I normally make is if your business actually has extended working hours than other businesses, that will allow people who are coming from work to be able to also get to do their shopping or get to experience that service that they actually want. So that's the situation that is happening within the oligopoly. So now we are going to kindly move on to the part whereby I am going to pose some questions and then give you a few minutes to try and work them out, and then at the end I will then provide you guys with the answers for those questions. So again, your pencil or your pen, it's going to come in handy. Or if you are going to be watching at a later stage, you can just pause and then scribble down, or even take screenshots if you are watching from your cell phones, because I'm not going to allow you guys too much time because of the time constraint that we are faced with. So we shall move on now to the questions and answers. So now the questions that we are going to be dealing with first are questions from or that are based on perfect markets. So you are to study the graphs, and it's an industry and an individual firm. But now the only difference is that we actually have numbers rather than the label saying Q here or P1, which is the market price. Then the questions that actually follow, they want us to actually describe the shape of the individual firm. So there is the demand curve that they are referring to. What's that shape? What did we say the slope of the demand curve was? Then number 2, name the market price on the graphs above. So what's the market price that you see there? Then we need to briefly explain what long run cost of a business is. Why is a firm in the perfect market referred to as a price taker? And then lastly, how is the price of a perfect market influenced in the long run? So those are your questions. I will now just reveal the answers because we don't have much time that is left. So what you can just do, as I've mentioned, if you can't write everything down, you can just pause the video when you are watching at a later stage. You can just pause the video and then just quickly write the questions down. Or the easiest way is to just screen grab the questions and then you work them at a later stage. So I will now reveal the answers for the perfect market. So the demand curve that they were looking for is the horizontal demand curve, and the market price is 30 rands. Then briefly explain what the long run cost. So we have 2 options there. We can say that the long run cost refers to a period of time that is long enough for the enterprise to be able to change the quantities of all their inputs, which is now their raw materials that they are going to utilize in the production process. So that could be your factors of production now, your inputs, some of your inputs. Or you can simply say it's a period in which there are no fixed inputs. So everything is variable there. No fixed inputs. All the inputs, they are variable. Then number 4, why is a firm in a perfect market referred to as a price taker? The prices, they are determined by the market supply and demand. And the individual firm is one of many sellers, and they just need to accept the price that was determined by the forces of supply and demand. Then the last question under perfect market, how is the price of a perfect market influenced now in the long run? And that is a 4-mark question. Another thing that we need to always keep in mind is the mark allocation, because it guides us as to how much answers we need to give. The first option, in the long run, more suppliers will enter the market as economic profits are made in the short. So the economic profits that are going to be made by the individual businesses will attract more businesses or more competitors. As more suppliers enter the market, the price will be pushed down, because now there will be many people who are supplying the same products. So now if some businesses, they're not getting enough customers, they will try and look for other options as to how they can gain market share. And that would be by pushing down some of the prices. Or if the price is then lowered now, then also the profits, they will shrink. So hence we say that a perfect market in the short run, it makes an economic profits. However, in the long run, because of that increased competition, it then makes a normal profit or zero profit. Then we are quickly going to move on to the imperfect market activities. Again, there's an extract that we need to study, and then we need to answer questions that follow. So this one is based on oligopolies. A few large oligopolies, they dominate the market. Just a few handset manufacturing companies, they dominate the cell phone network of South Africa. The products are similar, and sold by a few companies. Moreover, the products are branded due to extreme competition. So you see now the business is trying to set themselves apart from other businesses because of that extreme competition. And because there are huge large term entry barriers, the companies make exorbitant profits. The competing companies, they have unusual interdependence to the point that they almost operate in unison. So what that simply means is that what business A does, business B is also likely to do. So we quickly move on to the questions now. From the extract, we need to list one feature or one characteristic of an oligopoly. What other economic term describes the nature of products that are being sold by oligopolies? Number 3, explain the term entry barrier. What does that mean? Why do firms collide or collude with one another in the oligopoly? How do branding assist a company operating in an oligopoly market structure? Then again, you can just simply repeat what you did with the perfect market with regards to getting the questions for yourself, as I will now reveal the answers. From the extract, there are products that are similar that are being sold. The products are also branded due to extreme competition. There are barriers to entry. That's 1 mark. Number 2, what other economic term describe the nature of products that are being sold there? So remember when we were describing it during the characteristics, we said we get homogeneous products or even differentiated products there. Then number 3, explain the term entry barrier. It is not easy to enter or exit the market, an obstacle preventing new businesses from entering the market. So when there is something that is hindering you from doing something, that something that hinders you is a barrier. Why do firms collude with one another in oligopolies? They collude with one another so that they can maximize their profits and also to limit entry. So when they are colluding, they would be simply trying to form a monopoly. So if 3 businesses are to collude together and charge the same price, they would now become a collective monopoly. So that is why businesses in the oligopoly, they sometimes collude. However, in South Africa, keep in mind that according to the Competition Act or policy, collusion is not allowed in South Africa. So if a business in South Africa is operating under oligopoly, then unfortunately they cannot collude with other businesses to try and form that collective monopoly. Then the last question, how does branding assist businesses that are operating in an oligopoly? It sets their products apart. It distinguishes a product from that of competitors, promoting brand loyalty, because some people, they want to buy branded items. It also attracts customers. And unfortunately, we have came to the end of our second session, whereby we were dealing with the dynamics of markets, which is paper 2. I just want to wish everyone all the best for their exam as they prepare for their term 2 June exams. And please kindly make sure that you study the right modules for your papers, because remember, economics has 4 modules. You have macroeconomics and microeconomics that are going to be tested in these upcoming June exams. Now, as you are preparing for those, please go through your terminologies, go through past papers. Do not be afraid to simply ask your tutors, to ask people who've done economics before you, and most importantly, to ask for when you do not understand something from your various teachers. And there's also us, telematics presenters. You can just simply, as mentioned, You can just simply get in contact with us using those platforms. As you can see, we need to make education fashionable by watching, by sharing, and spreading the word with regards to all these resources that we are afforded to. So we don't have an excuse now as to why, because I'm sure most people, they do have TikTok, they do have Facebook, and definitely WhatsApp. So you can just log on to one of those platforms, then you will definitely get in touch with us. Otherwise, have a nice evening, because it's almost evening now. In Cape Town, it's very cold. Please make sure that you are warm and you do attend school. Otherwise, good afternoon and good evening to everyone. I am tapping out. Bye bye.